I would now like to invite Linda from Camden Education Trust, Oliver from Apara, all the way from Singapore, and Jason from Skills Vista to join me for our panel discussion today. Thank you, folks. You're very welcome and appreciate you taking the time to join our panel discussion at our Link and Learn event today. We might start off by hearing a little bit more about our panelists and a brief introduction, your role and the organisation that you're part of. Oliver, we'll start with you.
Sure. Thanks, Dave. Very much enjoyed this session so far with Mark's keynote presentation. My name is Oliver Tien. I'm with at Singapore. I'm with a couple of non-profit organizations like APARA, which stands for Asia Pacific Robotic Association, Global Robot Cluster of Daegu in Korea, and the International Alliance Robotic Association in China. So one of the things that we believe and we strongly advocate is the use of AI in robotic systems, and in particular, how can it apply into the education sector. Myself, I've got a strong passion for education, and one of my strong belief, which I believe, which Mark also mentioned, is the need for a personalized learning pathway where just-in-time learning makes a lot more sense. Back to you, Dave.
Thanks, Oliver, and we're very much looking forward to joining you in Singapore for your event at the end of May. Linda, perhaps you'll go next.
Thanks, Dave. My name is Linda Cardiff. I'm the project lead for the Camden Education Trust. It's a global education not-for-profit company. So we deliver a range of projects, including the World Robot Olympiad and the Women Empowerment Programme across 40 African countries. So as part of our work, we developed a CPD learning framework for female educators, African educators, around the introduction of technologies such as AI, robotics in the classroom. So we focus on what the educators wanted, and this included knowledge around AI, ethical issues, the Sustainable Development Goals, media information literacy, and leadership skills. So the topic today is actually a hugely important day for our organisation because we find ourselves at the very intersection of AI and sustainability in education. I suppose we see how AI will change how we interact with the planet and each other, and we know we need to be educated on how to guide its development. So it's good to be part of the discussion today, and I think it's very timely given that World Earth Day was on Monday, and AI featured very, very strongly in many of the discussions held around the protection of the planet. So back to you.
Thanks, Linda, and it's always great to hear about the great programs that Camden Education Trust runs, really worthy programs, and thank you for that introduction. Jason.
Hi everyone, my name's Jason Cullity. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Skills Vista. So Skills Vista is a multi-sided talent management platform and it supports people, businesses and industries. So we have a B2B, B2C and an industry version of our system. Back in January, we became the first Irish company to win a Global EdTech Startup Award at BET in London. Our system is preloaded with 30,000 roles, and every role has a set of skills, optional and essential skills. So it means we're actually making the learning journey far easier for employees, for their managers to understand their skills gaps, and then we can connect it in then with the learning that's needed to bridge those skills gaps. So we can plug into any learning management system that's out there to enhance what the learning management system has. So we create upskilling plans for businesses, and I suppose it's all about putting the right person in the right role with the right skill set to drive their business growth, which more often than not, people can find that quite complicated. So we streamline all of that for pretty much everyone. And then we can consolidate the skills gaps across an industry in real time as well, so that we can give that information then to the likes of potentially in the future learning providers. We could give it to universities, comparing like a civil engineer's role 3 years ago against a civil engineer's role today, and understanding how that has changed over time, and then realizing that their curriculum needs to update accordingly to be in line with what industry needs.
Great, thanks Jason, and congratulations again on your award at BET in January. We were delighted to be there to celebrate with you. So let's get into the topic of the day, folks, and maybe let's explore this topic a little bit more in detail. So I'm going to start with our first question for a couple of our panelists. Why do you think this particular subject has been so popular amongst the Learnovate community? And Linda, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think listening to Mark, AI is here and it's not going away. It's definitely not a buzzword anymore. It's a business, and I believe it's all of our business. It crosses into so many areas of our life, and it was evident from his presentation. It's a game changer in teaching and learning and for future career opportunities. But also, it seems to be front and center of what we read and discuss in industry and education. I do believe there's quite a hype around it at the moment. So I think structured, informed conversations like this are really important and necessary. And I think just in general, I think people are interested and also conscientious about how we engage with AI, because it has so many ethical, societal, environmental, and legal implications.
Game changing is definitely something that we're hearing a lot of in our Learnovate conversations. Jason, perhaps your perspective.
Yeah, again, I echo, I suppose, everything that's been said so far. But like AI is obviously changing how companies operate, how we actually learn. It's allowing us to process data far quicker than we previously would have been able to, or even access data that was never ever going to be analyzed. So it's giving us information that will allow us to make, I suppose, better informed decisions. Most people on this call today, we're in the education space. As we all know, if we don't innovate, the likelihood of us being in existence in 3 or 5 years is a lot less than the companies that will innovate quicker. So it's about understanding how AI can enhance pretty much everything that we're doing. As technology improves, people will need upskilling. I recently spoke to a friend of mine. He's in the sustainability business, and he was talking about, getting the data, but getting the data is only the first part. So even if the AI analyzes the data, it's like, how do employees, understand what it means when they're doing certain activities? So the education piece becomes even more important as technology changes. So I think that's probably the main reason why, it's of such interest to the Learnovate community, because we are at the forefront of, how we're going to actually bridge that particular gap and understanding around the sustainability piece.
Thanks, Jason. I think the number of Learnovate members involved in our AI research working group really validates the interest from the Learnovate community. Our topic today is the intersection between AI and sustainability in education, and I'm sure our panelists have many different views on that. So I'm interested to get all of your views on what you believe is the intersection between AI and sustainability in education. Oliver, I'm going to ask you first, if that's okay.
Sure. I believe at the end of the day, AI is a technology that will support us as a tool. And it's important that we think about this technology not so much as a object that's going to displace us, but really a tool that can augment our capability and, if possible, extend our potential. Now, the whole discussion on sustainability has been around for a while, and AI can definitely play a part, a very big part, in helping learners understand sustainability to a greater extent. There is a number of discussions that's taking place currently in the last few months around regenerative learning. And this is really to put the regenerative mindset into our learners to not just look at how technology can be applied, but really to think about how we can use technology to look at some of the ways we can protect our ecosystem, to reuse, to recycle, and potentially to preserve the nature at its balance. And to do so, we probably need to use AI tool for what I would call reverse prompting. Not just to ask questions to the AI tool, but really to look at what if, why not, how can it be different, to look at things from a very different perspective. And back to Jason's comment around the fact that we need to upskill ourselves. And this is a very important message, right? If we stay complacent, we probably end up letting the tool take over what we do. But if we are able to continuously upgrade ourselves, learn new things, appreciate the technology, and understand how we can leverage the technology to help us, it can achieve a lot more. And this is where AI can play a big part in helping learners understand sustainability, and in the process itself, create a very innovative way of understanding knowledge and the space around us. So in that sense, right, I see AI playing a very powerful role, together with the appreciation of sustainability, to help us hit a balance in nature. Back to you, Dave.
Thanks, Oliver. Jason, what do you believe it is?
Yeah, I suppose for us, it might be slightly different. So for us, the intersection is really getting information as quickly as possible from industry with regards to changes. So in other words, as green practices start to kind of improve or update, how can we get that information? How can we change then, I suppose, our training modules around those changes? And how can we, make that available to the masses? So like with the likes of Skills Vista, obviously we can tag skills to different roles. So like from a national or from a global perspective, there's no reason why we couldn't tag green skills to every role on our system and have different levels within it. So everyone will get a basic level. You could go into intermediate and you could go to advanced. And then as things improve or change, we can automatically update the system with the training so that actually to provide currency. And I think that's probably one of the key things is like, how can we get the key information to everyone that needs to get it as quickly and as humanly possible? And obviously I laugh at the part humanly possible because we'll use AI in order to be able to facilitate that.
Absolutely. Linda?
Well, I would definitely echo the points that Jason and Oliver have made and Mark earlier, but I looked up some definitions earlier. I thought they were pertinent for today, and I looked up the definition of sustainability. And depending on where you look, I thought it was interesting, definitions of this term are disputed and vary greatly in literature, context and time. But the simplest definition I found was sustainability is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And then intersection is a point or line common to lines or surfaces that intersect. So I think in the context of today's conversation, and from my perspective, I believe the intersection of AI and sustainability in learning is actually education. And by education, I mean in AI in the wider context. So in relation to ethical, societal, environmental sustainability. So as Mark said earlier, data generated by AI is responsible for worryingly high carbon emissions. But I think we all need to be educated on how we can address this issue. Oliver, you mentioned just, regeneration there as well. I think that kind of really, it plays into that. And then the other thing as well is AI has been used to reveal the potential for thousands of new materials that could be used in time in the production of better performing batteries, solar panels and computer chips. So, I mean, this would ultimately reduce our reliance on mining rare materials for hardware. So again, education around this is imperative, especially for students, because they're the ones who are coming through. They'll be the innovators in the future. And then the obvious, like education around biases. We need to be educated on how to identify biases in data and how to challenge them. So I think it's probably, and I think Mark said it as well, it's evolving every day, AI is, and the future is unknown. But I do think the more educated we are about AI, the more we can contribute to important discussions on AI and the impact it has on sustainability.
Thanks, Linda. It sounds like you definitely did your homework earlier, and I would totally agree that education is very much at the heart of everything, right? So thank you, folks, for sharing your perspective on that and what you believe that intersection is between AI and sustainability in education. We'll move on and perhaps talk about some current applications of AI in education and how they're contributing to sustainable learning practices. Jason, have you any examples that you've seen recently?
Yeah, I suppose there would be a good few, Dave. I suppose it's if you look at it right around automating admin tasks, like some companies don't have enough employees. So then it's about, okay, how can you use AI to automate an awful lot of tasks within business, etc. Okay, it's the access to the knowledge, right? Again, sometimes you might question the knowledge. You have to have a certain level of understanding yourself. Like I think you can't use it in isolation. It has to complement, I suppose, your basic understanding of different things. And then it's around like the personalized learning journeys. So as I said a few times there around Skills Vista, like with our system, it means that any person can actually compare themselves against a job. It could be, even like it could be in the sustainability space. If they have a skills gap, then they would basically have a personalized learning journey to get there, which is more or less unheard of. So we can do that for businesses, for industries, and obviously for job seekers. So that's going to be a real problem going forward, because even if you talk about sustainability, Korn Ferry did a recent study and they said that 85 million people, there's going to be a human capital deficit of 85 million people by 2030. So we need to actually be sustainable around even our human capital. And how can we do that? We need to utilize AI to do the actual tasks that it can do for people. Same with nurses. Even earlier on, Mark mentioned his wife's a teacher. Like how can it support them with lesson plans and simplify all that and take take tedious time away from them, give them time back.
Thanks, Jason. Oliver, any examples from your side of the world?
Dave, when I first look at the term sustainable learning, it brings to mind two possible perspectives, right? One is really creating and building a sustainable mindset, right? To understand the whole environment and how we can recycle the use of information back into the system. The other is sustainable learning could refer to continuous learning, the learning process that is sustainable and not so much once you learn and 6 months later you forget the contents of what you picked up. And this is where a very important concept brings to mind, right? Just in case learning versus just in time learning. Like in just in case learning, which is what we do today a lot in our learning models, we teach what we want our students to know just in case they need the knowledge. However, as we start to look more and more into personalized learning paths, then just-in-time learning is key because you want to be able to reinforce that learning to provide the continuous learning process so that the learner can continue to pick up, reinforce, remember, recollect any information that they have picked up before and then apply it accordingly. Hence, learning is a continuous process. Learning must be sustainable, and to do so, learning must be fun. Fun not in the sense that you enjoy and have a party about it, but fun in the sense that learning has to be flexible, unlimited, and never ending. And in that sense, it builds a whole concept around sustainable learning. And if we are able to bring that practice into the learning model, then of course we expect our learners to eventually pick up a habit of sustainability in a broader sense. And this is where I believe good applications, the examples given by Mark in the keynote around Khan Academy and other examples show that there is a need how AI can play a part, all right, in providing personalized learning, not just as a mechanism of doing so, but really a companion to eventually to support the learner in the whole learning process. And as a result of all this, we can expect our new learners, our future generation learners, to be more apt in terms of how they can pick up knowledge, reinforce the knowledge, and more importantly, apply as they pick up the knowledge. Back to you, Dave.
Thanks, Oliver. I'm actually going to stay with you for a little bit longer and perhaps talk about some of the ethical considerations from an AI and sustainability in education and learning perspective. What do you think the different considerations are that organizations should be bearing in mind?
One of the current limitations of the use of AI in business is really the limited data sets that you can refer to. I guess when we talk about automating AI technology, we rely a lot on past data sets. Even with ChatGPT, right, the database that it refers to is up to 2022, and any current information are not included into that search itself. And as a result of that, depending on what you have digitized, you build a probable uh, aspect of confirmation bias because the past history has happened this way. It is reinforced through the whole search process, and then you confirm or reconfirm that it is the case, hence creating a bias. Now, confirmation bias is a very, very dangerous phenomenon because because you never get a chance to look at what's new, you never get a chance to look at what's beyond the nine dots, and we keep thinking that we are doing the same thing correctly. And greenwashing is another example where we want to fall into that trap because we think we're doing a great thing. In the past, we've done it this way before, and we never got a chance to look at how can it go beyond the current practices. Um, Another aspect that's worrying us is the inconclusive evidence produced by the data sets. And this is partly also due to the availability of data that can be used for the necessary analytics. So two of these areas, right, the whole aspects of confirmation bias and the inconclusive evidence produced by AI can be a major concern because if we use the AI tool to help the learners understand more about sustainability, we will never get a chance to break out of the nine dots and understand what is possible. The other aspects of ethical considerations that we want to think about is the influence and the interference with the autonomy and agency of teachers and learners. We will never be able to allow the learners and the teachers to, to be creative, to think beyond what is possible, to crack the nut, to be creative. Many times we rely on what works and we keep to what works. And this is no way to learn. Finally, I'll say that the whole aspects of the ethical consideration sits in three big buckets: the objectivity of the data sets and the application of AI, the accountability of why a business decision has been made, and finally, the responsibility of who takes charge for the consequences that come into play. So that is probably a quick brief on the ethical considerations. I'm sure from the audience and from the other panelists, there'll be other aspects of ethical consideration that's important that needs to be put in place. But what is most important at the end of the day is a trustworthy AI that we build based on policies, based on guidelines, and a engine that's able to ensure that we can trust and help us adopt the AI tool, use the AI tool appropriately so that we can achieve our necessary education goal. Back to you.
Thanks, Oliver. I think you're right. There's many more ethical considerations that we perhaps haven't discussed, and encourage our audience today to pop some comments in there in the chat if they have any particular views on that. Jason, I'm going to move to you next, if that's okay, and perhaps talk about how can AI-powered analytics and data-driven insights support different educational institutions in adopting more sustainable practices.
Thank you. Yeah, I suppose the way I look at it is nearly like there's kind of three pieces to this. It's obviously you have your academic institutions, you have industry, and you have the learners. So using AI, what we can do with AI is we can obviously assess the data, but it shouldn't be directly connected in or only directly linked to it, like the likes of an environmental engineer. Every department in a business has a carbon footprint. So it's about understanding how each department actually, is impacting the green agenda or what their carbon footprint looks like, and then how can we get that information back into academic institutions so that they can update their curriculum for the likes of their primary degrees, so they can create micro credentials for, I suppose, very different parts of an industry or a business. Because the more awareness we create about how each individual activity is impacting, the carbon footprint, we're not going to really kind of get the real benefits or the impact that we would like to have. So I think that's a key part. So there's going to be lots of companies and lots of people gathering the data, but how can we actually consolidate this data in a meaningful way, and how can we give that information directly to the likes of the colleges, universities, the training providers, and have that as agile as it can be. So rather than maybe waiting maybe for 3 or 6 months for an academic council to sit and amend a curriculum, that whole process has to be leaned out so that the data goes in quickly. The data is processed by the AI first, then by the academic institution, changing the curriculum or whatever needs, or creating a new content. And that information then is given out to all the key companies and key individuals. But that communication piece is also critical. Because in the island of Ireland alone, there's phenomenal initiatives, the likes of Springboards, the likes of micro-credentials, the likes of ETB courses, fetch courses. But it's often very hard for companies to understand where to go to get that information that's needed for that upskilling process. So I think that's also critical part of the jigsaw that needs to be looked at as well, Dave.
Yeah, it is all about the data, but as you rightly say, it's all about the communication as well. So definitely one to bear in mind. Linda, I'm sure you have some views in relation to the pitfalls when it comes to sustainability and AI adoption. I'd be interested to hear what you believe the different pitfalls are.
Yeah, definitely, Dave. Well, I think for everything we create or implement in how we live our lives, we really need to consider, the implications of it. And there are pitfalls when it comes to sustainability. And I think, Jason, you just aptly described them there as well. And it comes at a cost. So some examples where AI is used in sustainability is to reduce energy consumption. AI can study patterns of energy consumption and provide insights on reducing and improving consumption. And all the while not compromising maybe a business's or a company's productivity. But a pitfall of this is that AI is trained on data, volumes and volumes of data, and it is responsible for the growing creation of e-waste. So there is a high carbon footprint of, with AI models. So I think we need to think about carbon neutral approaches to the implementation of AI, and these discussions, need to be part of the long-term plan for embedding AI into processes. But another example, and I've only really come across it recently, is AI Sora. And I don't know if you're all familiar with this, but I just couldn't believe it. It's an incredible advancement in the use of AI. So basically what it does, it converts text to video. You give it several prompts and it can produce high quality video, up to 1 minute in length. But I was blown away by it. It's so realistic. And I think that it offers huge potential to spread valuable information very cheaply about sustainability threats to the planet. But on the flip side of that, it's a cloud-based system, so it's very easy and tempting to repeatedly share large files, creating to the volume of data that's out there. But it also could be used to, produce misinformation or disinformation about climate change, air pollution, or biodiversity. So I think there are pitfalls, yes, but I think this is where critical thinking skills and solid knowledge around sustainability will be invaluable to have, and it'll help us kind of navigate through it. So, yeah.
Some interesting perspectives there, Linda. Thank you so much. Jason, I'm going to move to you next. We're obviously hearing a huge amount about how AI can support personalized learning experiences. It's top of our agenda and many organizations' agendas at present. But how can it promote sustainability within organizations? What are your views on that?
I suppose the key part with this, Dave, as well, is we need to be cognizant of the fact that employers don't want to lose a lot of their staff for large periods as well. So it's sustainability around the green piece, but sustainability from business context as well. So I really like, obviously, the micro-credentials, the way that Ireland has set that up at the moment. There's over 350 micro-credential courses there. So we can utilize AI to kind of to create, I suppose, a pathway from micro-credentials that it can be spread out over like a 2 or 3 month period. They can do maybe, a 3 credit, 5 credit course, and it can feed into kind of something a lot bigger within the space. So for me, it's about using the data. It's about communicating it in the best way possible. And using, I suppose, systems like ours. It's very innovative. It's very different. Like a lot of learning management systems have the content, but the content isn't connected in. It doesn't create that individual roadmap. So it's about enhancing, I suppose, what we currently have and looking even within, I suppose, the Learnovate community with regards to sustainability, like who's doing what, how can we come together as a group and create an even better system than what we have individually, in order to make that meaningful impact. But AI will give us the ability to kind of map that out far quicker. Input the skills in, input the actual timeline in, input the different learnings in, and then it'll tell you if you want a 3 month program or a 9 month program, and the system will actually be able to do it based on how much time you have.
Thanks, Jason. I think we could all continue the conversation for quite some time, but I'm afraid we've come to the end of our panel discussion today. I'd like to thank all of you for participating and providing such great insights to today's topic. Linda, Oliver, and Jason, thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. A huge thank you to Mark and our panel who you just met for giving us their time. Please do not hesitate to connect with them on LinkedIn if you wish to continue a conversation with them.